Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie, and welcome back to another DraftKings DFS Slate breakdown. Prem Saturday on our agenda this time. Just a four-gamer here. Tottenham was the only traditional Big Six team on the slate, and they're actually road dogs to Brighton. Every game, as you can see, is plus odds. Like it really, it's kind of a pick whoever you want kind of slate. No team to stack whatsoever, particularly at least in terms of the odds. Brighton is the biggest favorite, as a matter of fact, at plus. Or no, everyone's kind of similar. Burnley plus 120, Brighton plus 130, West Ham 135. All three of those are pretty much joint highest. And this Wolves Leeds game is very much a toss up, even more so than the other ones, which are still like very even. So yeah, like odds don't mean a ton here. You just pick your guys. In terms of goal contribution odds, they very much reflect the same thing as those game lines do. There's not a single minus odd goal contribution player on this whole slate. I don't remember the last time I've seen the Champions League or Premier League slate like that, but it's super wild to see, super fun to see. And really, goal contributions can come from anywhere on any team. So yeah, like we're not going to glean a ton of information from these just because of how even it really is on a slate like this. Now let's go into projected lineups and potential set pieces for Brighton. In this team, I imagine it'd be Garuda and Ayari, or maybe Milner. Both of them ended up having a corner or two last game, so like who really knows? They're both right-footed guys, so there's no real pattern there. I don't know. There's a toss-up between both of them. And Garuda should have something, although Minte also took a corner last game. However, he is a lefty, and Garuda is kind of the main set piece taker when he starts. So I'd assume it'd be Garuda, although like even that's not really a guarantee at this point with them. And then for West Ham, it should be Kudus and Xavi Simon splitting. Pedro Porro doesn't really take much anymore now that they have Xavi Simon starting. Burnley and Forest. Burnley should be Hartman and Cullen splitting. For Forest, it's interesting they have Anderson, Louise, and Bakwa all in projected here. I think that makes set pieces super messy. Elliot Anderson is their usual set piece guy. However, in the cup game, he was started on the bench. Douglas Luiz started. He had set pieces. Bakwa played two and didn't take anything. However, he's a pretty prolific set piece taker for Strasbourg in Ligue 1 at his old club. So yeah, I think this team is like there's probably going to be a monopoly here. It's just hard to know where it comes from. Anderson would be my guess, just as the incumbent set piece taker. But Douglas Luiz is pretty much taken everybody's gone. So who really knows what they do with between those two guys? If you get it right, you're in a pretty favorable spot, but there's just quite a bit of risk involved with that. West Ham and Palace. West Ham should be mostly Ward Prowse, maybe Jared Bowen or Duke take something here and there. Crystal Palace should be Pino and Will Hughes in this team, or potentially Adam Morton. They're both left-footed guys, so there's a little bit of ambiguity there. Morton has also not played much, coming back from injury, so he's not really. He hasn't played a ton for us to really get a gauge on what they do. Both of them have taken set pieces here and there this season, even like when each other play. Like there's no real hierarchy that we can take here because they kind of swapped back and forth there for the left-footed sided sets. And Pino should just have his one right-footed in-swinger side that Eze used to take. Wolves and Leeds. Wolves should be Hugo Bueno and John Arias splitting. Arias started on the bench last league game, so we saw Huang Hee-chan take sets pretty crazily enough. And that just shows how much of a true split team they are. Like to do in-swingers, like to have one left-footed guy on this side, one right-footed guy on that side. They're pretty consistent in that manner. And I think it also helps that Bueno's projected to start at right back. He doesn't have to run as far over, which I think is a factor for these teams. So yeah, him and Arias should just split here in this lineup. And if Arias doesn't play, Hong Chan. Like we talked about, another guy to watch out for is David Muller-Wolfa. Worst case scenario, excuse me, would be if they start Bueno and Wolfie together, because I'm not really sure what they do and who has seniority there, since they're both left-footed set piece taking guys. Just kind of hope we don't get that kind of lineup. And then for Leeds, last game was more of a Stotch and Goodmunson split, which is what they did in preseason. However, during most of the league so far, they've had Stotch take a majority of set pieces, but it was a pretty clear one side split with Stotch and Goodmunson last game. That's something to keep an eye on here. They're both solid options here. But once again, a little bit of uncertainty there as to how much Goodmunson splits, how much of a share does Stotch still take? Will we have another like 75%? Will we go back to 50-50? Will we go back to 100? Who really knows? It'll be some combo of those two guys in some capacity, though. And now let's go to our pricing here. Jared Bowen, 10,100. He's just been super solid. Like, I have no real issue playing him here. To be a close game. Like, there's really not a single team I think dominates in any of these games. I think every game will be pretty even. There's a chance the Forest hold a little bit of possession just because Ange Postecoglou is coaching them now, and he kind of lives by the high line. However, we've seen him kind of change a little bit, especially towards the end of his Tottenham career. He kind of was willing to not really die on his laurels as much and become a little bit more even. I think he has to do that too, being a Forest coach. They're kind of more built for being on the counter more, which I think he'll have to adjust to. So yeah, Bowen 10,100 though. I guess it's a super solid option, super solid for floor. He's not really hit the highs of goal contributions that we typically see from him. Has got that goal away to Forest, but he's only got one goal contribution in 4 games. West Ham has just not been great. Crystal Palace is a great bounce back spot. Like I have no issue going to a pay up Jared Bowen here. After him, Omari Hutchinson overpriced. Charleston don't love here just because at Kolomwani now. Solanke, I don't know if he's still injured. Let me check that. No, he is still out, so he only has Kolomwani threatening for minutes, but both of them will probably play, and one will probably sub in for the other. So it's just not a great spot for either of them. Kind of both hurt each other. Minta 8,300. If Gruda doesn't play, I think it's a pretty solid option here. Like I said, we end up having sets against Bournemouth. And if there's no Gruda, you should have that role again. That's one thing I'd watch out for come last. If there's like I don't know if they have like Welbeck up top and move Reuter further back, then it's a all systems go spot for Minte. Otherwise, he's not a bad option. He's got a decent floor just from open play, but he just probably goes from like really great play to solid option, depending if we see Gruda or not in the team. Jaden Anthony's been really solid this season, kind of surprising me. He's lost sets, but like he's still been just great. Got a couple of goals. He's had all like 3 out of 4 have been really tough matchups. He's gotten there in quite a few of them. Like 4 points against Liverpool is his worst game. That's not even bad at all. Now, I'm not really afraid of this Forest team right now. They look kind of vulnerable. Ange Postecoglou is still settling in. So I don't think it's a bad spot for Jane Anthony at all. Bakwa, I just don't think he takes over Anderson and Louise currently. He's probably like the third most likely of those 3 guys to end up having something. And I'm a little bit of wait and see on him anyway, just because Forest have quite a few attackers now. They signed Hutchinson, him, their old guys of Hudson Odoi. Like they have plenty of attacking options. So he's going to be pretty unsafe for minutes too. So I don't love a Bakwa play here. Chris Wood, I'm worried about his spot being taken by Igor Jesus. Played super well in the cup game, got a couple of goals, looked really good for Botafogo in the Club World Cup. I would not be surprised if Igor Jesus ends up the starting striker by the end of the season, despite how good Chris Wood has been for Forest. Like it is a new coach thing, you have to remember. And I wouldn't be surprised if Igor Jesus ends up being the guy for them at the end of the year. But either way, like whoever starts is once again going to be splitting time with the other one. So decent little GPP play because whoever starts has good upside. They're playing Burnley. It's not a bad matchup. But for cash, I'd stay away from that kind of option here. I want a guy who's a little bit more safer for minutes, especially in a slate where it's going to be super even across the board. Like you're not going to have enough domination from really any forward to kind of get away with it. You're only going 60 minutes. So you're going to score 2 goals in that time, which is just not that likely because of how close these matchups are. Other forwards here, Mateta's never a bad play. I don't mind him. Tell if he starts 600, that's not terrible. Somerville, 6,400, that's pretty solid. Gomez, just Rodrigo Gomez, not he's like a wing back more, so I don't really love that he's a forward. And there's not a ton. Hwang Hee-chan's a great play if we see no John Arias. He should have sets. A little bit scary for minutes, but like I'd still be tempted by that option if we see a favorable lineup for him. And then there's not a ton here. I think it's pretty likely pay up forward kind of slate. These are all really solid options. And the mid kind of drops off slightly here. Now midfielder. Kuda signed 200. Always a solid option. I never mind him. Just good. Just a good player. I don't know how to describe him. Crosses a ton, takes some corners. Good floor. Great play. Ryan Gruda, 8,900. I think the issue with him is that he's a little bit pricey for a guy who just doesn't go 90 like ever. He's pretty much a 60-minute guy max. Got a decent floor, but he's also like 8,900, which I think is just a little bit pricey here. I like him as a player, but I don't know if this is the spot, especially considering they're playing Tottenham, who are just a good team. After that is Elliot Anderson, who, if we see no Douglas Luiz, I'd like him a lot. With Douglas Luiz potentially starting, I guess it becomes a little bit risky. I just don't really know what to do with him. He probably will take, but what if he doesn't? You're paying 7,600 for essentially a box-to-box midfielder who is setless, and that just doesn't seem like a great spot for me, especially considering they're away too. I just don't know if he's worth the risk, but he's going to be tempting even with Douglas Luiz potentially starting. If Douglas Luiz is on the bench, like, I think he's a pretty safe option. Devin Simons is 7,200. I really like him as a player. He's looked really good so far. Set pieces, Tottenham have looked good in general, just as a team. So he's a beneficiary of that as well. So I have no issues with the Xavi Simons play here. He's also 2K cheaper than Kudus, which is super nice as well. And he's a good option. Gibbs White's never a bad play. Doesn't have sets, but just a solid player. Same with Paquetá. Both all right guys there. Ayari, same thing as kind of Elliot Anderson. I just don't know what they do with their sets completely. And I'd rather take a chance on the cheaper guy than the more expensive in Ayari. I'd go Milner for 1K cheaper than Ayari, considering Milner's probably on penalty kicks. He's just as I'd say just as likely to have sets, and that's he's kind of safer in that capacity. Is rather save the 1K when you're taking a chance either way. Then there's Ford Prowse, 5,800. He's just raw set pieces, doesn't do a ton from open play, but that's kind of fine in your cash formats. Like he's not going to go lower than a 4, although it's arguable whether a 4 is really good enough. But yeah, like he's got this 14 8-point teams in. Prowse is not that bad of a matchup either, which we can really say for any of these guys. But it's just a fine spot. They don't have a ton to really say about him. Same with Stotch. If he has Monopoly, like he's just a great play. If he goes back like a full split, he's just fine. Like really all of these kind of splitting set piece takers on this site are fine. Like it's hard to really differentiate them too much because the matchups are so even, because there's so many of them. Like really just a ton of just all right guys. It's hard to like, I think you just have to kind of pick your dude just because there's really an argument for any of these guys. Pino, good set piece taker. John Arias, good set piece taker. Both of them maybe have a little bit of minutes concerns. That's the only issue there, but they both make up for it in upside. Warden, if he does start 5,100, that's a fine option. Cullen for 800, not a bad option. There's really just a ton of really good mids here. We're just completely fine to go. You just have to pick your guy, make a stand on some of them. Douglas Luiz 3,700 if you want to take a chance on him as well. But yeah, like there's a ton of really good mids, especially for cheap. I don't really have an edge between them at the moment. We'll see how lineups shake up. Maybe you'll get some sort of better like lineup surprise that may help us. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm trying to think of something. Maybe Wolves start with like He Chan and I don't know, He Chan and Rodrigo Gomez at wing back. So it's like a John Arias monopoly. That'd be an edge there. Maybe, I don't know, if Crystal Palace somehow don't start any of the left footed set piece options, maybe Pino as a monopoly, that'd be an edge there. But for now, I think you really just not a ton of distinct, not a ton to differentiate all those different guys. Defenders, Poro, I think is overpriced, especially with Xavi Simons playing 8K. I don't love that. Youth is my guy. I love him, but he's priced up a bit. I think there's going to be better set piece takers on this slate. So I think he's fine, just not great in price. Hartman, who I love, he's just been solid. 8, 4, 9, 8, and a lot of tough matchups. His best game, unsurprisingly, came against Sunderland, and he has got another kind of similar level team against Forest. They're not even arguably playing better than Forest this season too. So like I like the spot here. They're at home. I love me a bit of Hartman always. So he's a good option for me. Good months in 5,100. Don't mind him. Just been solid. Wolves is not that bad of a matchup. Good play there. Sosa is a lock for me if he starts. I doubt he plays. He's kind of their cup wing back, but he's a guy who crosses a ton, takes set pieces. Watch out for him if he somehow starts. That's a great play. Probably best play on the slates. But like a guy I'd be a little bit surprised to see. After that, there's not a ton. Like, Hugo Bueno actually is going to be a core play when we get to that portion. 4K, crosses a ton, takes set pieces. He's the cheapest of the wingbacks that takes. So yeah, you give me all the Hugo Bueno at 4K, especially considering he plays like in this wingback role, so he's forward. He's seen some goal contributions. I love him. After that, Muller Wolfie, kind of the same thing as Hugo Bueno if he starts. De Kuiper, if he plays, is not a bad option. Ketchua, if he starts, is just a 3K wingback. That's solid. But yeah, like, it's not a ton. If you're going to play a center back on a pair with a set piece taker, I think it works even better, honestly, like this, just because there's not going to be a ton of goals likely. Like as we saw, goal contribution odds were kind of low per player basis. So it makes the gap between like these center back chances of scoring and like your attackers kind of blowing them away a little bit lower. But yeah, guys, goalkeeper, absolute crapshoot, especially on this slate. Every goalkeeper's got similar odds here. So there's just even less edge than usual on this slate. The gap between the cheap goalkeepers and the expensive goalkeepers is even smaller. Kind of just play whatever you land on. Try to game script. Don't play if you're playing like I don't know, Richarlison, I wouldn't go the Brighton goalkeeper probably just because Richarlison's going to need a goal contribution to get there, in which case you're already going to start with a -2 for your keeper, no chance of clean sheet. So that's the one thing I can say about keeper. Now let's go into our core before we get on out of here. I'm going Hugo Bueno if he plays. This will be Wolfie if he starts and Bueno doesn't, by the way. So just keep that in mind. After that, I'm going Hartman. I love Hartman as a player. I love the matchup. Give me him. I want to abstain from picking a midfielder here because I think there's just so many good options. This is a really tough position this week. There's too many good players. I'm putting Jared Bowen for now as my third core piece here. I don't mind paying up with forward because of how those like 5K-ish mids that we saw that I could take. They're in good spots. So yeah, that's how I'd build based on these projected lineups. Remember, if you want to see the core after we get lineups, as well as information for all the other different random soccer slates we get on a Saturday, especially, make sure to check out the Upside Discord, which can be accessed through a subscription through the website link below. But yeah, guys, that'll be it, and I'll see you for the next one.